Welcome back to the Play by Play podcast YouTube channel, where today it is the return of The Corner, the segment of the podcast where we talk about all news within the combat sports world in both boxing and mixed martial arts. Where today, breaking news within the boxing world, as on Monday or yesterday at the time that I'm recording this, it has been announced that Ryan Garcia and Mario Barrios will officially be fighting each other for Barrios' WBC welterweight title in the T-Mobile Arena at Las Vegas on February 21st. And first of all, the first thing that I really want to say about this is hats off to the person that created this poster. This is a really, really cool fight poster. To have the Vegas type design, light up sign in the middle, to have Garcia and Barrios, obviously normal pictures of their stances, but just look a little bit, almost darker, for them and that and kind of a shadowy type vibe on the entire poster. It was just a really, really cool feel. And it's something that I think should be pointed out because I think it's kind of unseen in the world of combat sports these days, especially in the UFC. I don't think that the UFC's posters have really delivered in a very, very, very long time. And of course, it's very difficult to come up with new creative ideas when almost everything has been done. But the past, 30 to 50 UFC posters have been very, very similar, where you pretty much just have like the two heads facing off and they put it in a different colored font and have lights flying over. So it's really cool to see some artwork like that. And as a fan of graphic design, it's really cool to see. But enough about that. Let's go ahead and look in and focus on this fight, because this fight to me is a make or break fight for both fighters. First starting with Mario Barrios, because his story is a little bit quicker and a little bit easier to explain and go through. I don't think that it's any mystery right now that a lot of people believe that Mario Barrios is either the worst world champion in boxing or one of the worst world champions in boxing. He has been a guy that has struggled with very, very basic challenges throughout his time as WBC champion. And of course, he's had some solid performances and solid wins. Most notably, probably the win over Yordenis Ugas a couple of years ago when defending that title. But going to a draw, I believe, with Abel Ramos on the undercard of Paul Tyson, going against a 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao, and going to a draw as well when, in my opinion, Barrios lost that fight and looked incredibly vulnerable, especially early on, to Pacquiao's speed and ability to come around to different angles. I mean, going to a draw against that man who, yes, Pacquiao still looks solid, but obviously was still a shell of his prime self back in, 2009, 2010, when he was just running through boxing. It's created a very bad cover around Mario Barrios and his WBC reign. And so he needs to come into this fight, and he needs to show that he's the real deal. And fortunately for him, he has one of the unequivocal biggest names in boxing to do that against. I mean, Ryan Garcia, with his social media presence, with so many of the big events and big fights that he's been in over the past couple of years, is one of the most notable names in boxing, and you could say stars in boxing at this time. And while Ryan might not have, the most talent, which we'll get to in just a second, or most consistent, big time victories, he is still somebody that is seen as a really, really solid challenge and would definitely catapult Barrios into be taken much more seriously by the boxing media. And so that is what is on the table for Barrios. Dare I say that he needs to stop Ryan Garcia also to kind of increase that notoriety and respect for his championship reign? I think that he should. Can he do that? I'm not 100% sure. I don't think that he's really showcased enough power, especially at this 147 situation. And I'm not sure with Ryan's speed that he can really afford to getting into a lot of exchanges with Ryan, which takes away, the ability to consistently land big time shots on Ryan, which is something that, once again, we'll get to a second. But that's the position that I feel like Mario Barrios is in right now as the champion of what was once a big time coveted belt, especially in the 147-pound division in the WBC title. But then moving on to Ryan, this is probably even more of a make or break fight for him than it is for Barrios, because This is now the third straight title fight that Ryan Garcia has had. And it's kind of the third time where he didn't really do much to really deserve that title shot. I mean, if you look at it, the Devin Haney fight really came off of the back of a rivalry that had stemmed from the amateurs. Two big time names from the 135 division who have moved up to 140. But prior to that, I mean, who did he beat? I mean, he lost to Gervonta Tank Davis at 135. Prior to that, he had a very, very tough challenge against Luke Campbell. I think that he had, a tune-up fight prior to the Haney fight, which he ended up taking care of. But he didn't realistically do a lot to go out and earn that title shot. And then off the back of that Haney fight, where he had came back off of a year layoff due to his drug suspension, he comes into the Times Square card for Riyadh season and fights Rolly Romero for the WBA title, which again, two big names, two big talkers. They thought that there was going to be a lot of energy, but then puts together a stinker of a performance out there in Times Square. He just looked very off and tentative, especially compared to the aggression that we had seen within him against Devin Haney prior, and how personal that fight got between him and Haney. He got outboxed and outpowered and knocked down by Rolly Romero, who generally is looked at as not a fantastic boxer, and once again, nowhere near one of the most prestigious champions within the sport is Rolly Romero. He got outboxed and knocked down, and now he's getting handed on a silver platter a WBC title shot against Mario Barrios, who the WBC, over the past couple of years has been, losing some prestige and notoriety just due to some of the things that they have been doing. Things like, pushing Jake Paul to potentially be in the top 15 of their rankings and just giving these big time undeserved title shots. They really have been losing their will within the WBC, but this is, even something different. I mean, to be realistically coming off, two straight losses due to a suspension against Devin Haney and coming in and getting this fight. I mean, what merit does Ryan have more than Manny Pacquiao, fighting Mario Barrios? At least Pacquiao showed in that first fight that he could go up against Barrios and make things competitive and tricky. And a lot of people, once again, believe that he won this fight. But for Ryan, he's coming off of a big time loss, man. He's not even a legend in this sport. He's just a big time name on social media that has, given himself notoriety within the boxing world. On what 2 feet can he stand to realistically go out and, make it make sense that he even got this title shot in the first place? But also, second of all, and this is why this is even more make or break, is because, I'm sitting here and questioning how many chances he's realistically going to get to become a world champion, which would give him legitimacy within the sport on his name, because right now people just look at him as an entertaining fighter and a big time media guy. But I'm also looking at Ryan Garcia and I'm saying, are you even taking this seriously? I mean, all of the streams that he's had on social media during this fight camp, which, by the way, this fight has been, signed and ready for weeks, if not a couple of months now. It's only now that it is finally officially gotten announced with the fight poster in an arena, but the fight has been dotted and signed for a couple of weeks now, for multiple weeks. And Ryan has not really been putting in the work. And when you look at, the scope of Ryan Garcia's career, has he realistically ever really put in big time work? I mean, there have been lapses in his career where he has left and semi-retired at points due to, mental health illnesses and I understand that, that can get in the way and that can make things difficult, especially in the sport of boxing that is very much as mental as it is physical, and you have to walk away from that. But, with the steroid accusations coming in and the suspension, with him leaving Canelo's team and going through beef with Canelo's team a couple of years back, and there's been question about him saying that he barely trained for the Devin Haney fight and that he was out partying every single night and drinking and smoking and whatnot. Like, you just wonder, like, this is your last chance, man. I mean, if you lose to Mario Barrios, where do you go? I mean, you could maybe have like some big time matchups against like a Manny Pacquiao or whatnot and have some legend fights and whatnot. But if you lose to Rolly Romero and Mario Barrios, what's really next for your career? And the streams that he's been having of, fighting with, these smaller influencers and lesser known people and knocking down strangers in the boxing arena in his gym while sparring and doing pad work and whatnot, and really even looking like he barely even leaves his house. As unnaturally talented as Mario Barrios might be, the dude works his ass off and devotes himself to the sport day after day after day and fight after fight after fight. No matter how much more natural talent Garcia has than Barrios, Barrios is going to come ready. He is going to come ready for this fight, ready to exchange blows and hands, and is going to be sticking that tough jab that he has out against Garcia. He's going to be prepared. And for this being Ryan's last chance, for this being a fight that could potentially catapult Ryan into so many, different big time money fights. I mean, if Ryan were to win this, especially in spectacular fashion, this opens the door to so many different fights for him. Obviously, the Devin Haney rematch is on the table. So many people want to see that, want to see those two back in a press conference with each other and back in the ring to see if, especially with the PED use accusations, if that really mattered within that fight. Conor Benn and Ryan Garcia, at the time that I'm recording this, have been chewing at each other back and forth on Twitter. Conor Benn saying that he's going to be in attendance at the fight. And with Ben, what he's done with Chris Eubank Jr. over the past year and his incredible performance against Eubank Jr. back in, I believe it was November, in that rematch. He's become a megastar in boxing and in this 147 position. That's a big time fight. The rematch with Rolly Romero would be something that people would get out of their seats for. Who knows if Tank Davis wants to come back into boxing and really, really be serious, there's potential there for a rematch, like going up to 154 and fighting guys like Jerome Boots Ennis and Virgil Ortiz, and maybe even a fight with Errol Spence or the Charlo brothers or whatnot. I'm just saying, like, there's so much possibilities that are open for Ryan Garcia if he wins these fights. This is his last chance to realistically grab a world title and bag himself some legitimacy within this sport. And he's just not taking it seriously. He's not taking advantage of being given a world title on a silver platter. And I don't know what it's realistically going to take for him to get a wake-up call and wanting to get up and fight. Because, we've seen this, many, many times with different fighters. And, there's obviously that famous quote, hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. And I feel like that is the direction that we're going in with this fight as of right now. And seeing, guys throughout history, most notably in my mind is somebody like Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who had all the talent in the world, had, big time size in his favor, had a legendary dad that could get him into every single opportunity, but just didn't want to work hard, didn't want to train, wanted to go out and party and dwell into other things. Like I'm afraid with Ryan that we have the potential for a big time star, and it's just going to go to waste because he's not going to be able to get out of bed and realistically win any of these fights against top contenders. So I hope that he does get his act together. Either way, I do see this as being a really cool and interesting fight to go ahead and look at. I think for Ryan, he needs to establish his power immediately. I think if he can get Barrios going on the back foot, if he can keep Barrios from really throwing, because that's one of the things that Manny Pacquiao mainly did, is by coming at different angles and constantly attacking Barrios, Barrios wasn't able to realistically get any consequential shots off. So Ryan really doing that, and with the added speed and power that he's going to have, in comparison to a 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao, if he can take a similar tactic and put Barrios on the back foot, he should win this fight. Like this is a tailor-made, easy game plan fight for Ryan to win. If he can stay out of the way of that jab and not allow Barrios to get momentum in coming forward, he should win this fight pretty easily. Now for Barrios, again, he's going to have to get a lot more physical and tough in this fight. He's going to have to not have the slow starts that he's had previously against Pacquiao and Ramos. He is going to have to come out immediately and put himself on the front foot, use that effective jab that he has, throw to the body, and just keep Ryan from throwing his shots and be tentative. A lot like what Rolly Romero did, sticking that arm out, getting the range, keeping the jab in Ryan's face, and just not allowing Ryan to really think in there. That's really going to be the key to this fight. So whoever can do that first, I think, has a solid, or even, almost a guaranteed chance at winning this fight. But again, it's going to be who really wants it more, who's going to come down and who is realistically doing the work. So, right now, unfortunately, as crazy as it sounds, I think it's a 50-50 fight because I think as talented as Ryan is and as bad as Barrios has looked, I can't trust Ryan as of right now in a fight with how he has looked previously, with the lapses that he has. So right now, I'm not going to pick a winner for this fight. I'm going to call it a 50-50. My mind would like to likely lean Ryan just because of the power and the speed that he has. But until he gets his act together, I'm not sure what direction Ryan could possibly be in. But let me know about that all down below in the comment section. Let me know how you think this fight goes, what lies in the future for either of these fighters if they win this fight, and what do you think about Ryan Garcia's recent training regimen and how seriously he is taking this fight? Is this going to be his last chance at possibly coveting a world title, and what do you think will happen? Leave all of those answers down below in the comment section, as well as leaving a like on this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with your friends. And if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on all social medias, that being TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those apps are going to be down below. We're on all of those social medias. You'll get to see my latest reactions to breaking news in the NBA, the NFL, and combat sports, and you will never miss for whenever the podcast decides to upload an episode. And without further ado, guys, that's all that I have for you guys today. I will see you guys on the next one. Have a great rest of your week, and peace.